Russian President Vladimir Putin vowing to work toward the, quote, goal of complete annihilation of terrorists after a pair of bombings left at least 34 people dead in his country. And no one has claimed responsibility, but authorities believe a Chechen terror group carried out the attacks, and it is creating some serious security concerns for the 2014 Winter Olympics, which are just weeks away. John Bolton is former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and a Fox News contributor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be with you, Heather.
So do you believe that this is just a sign of things to come?
Well, I think there's every risk of that, and I think that's why Putin has strengthened security all over Russia, particularly at Sochi. The Olympics, I think, are a target. I think any sports event where a lot of people come together, obviously, is vulnerable. And we saw that in the United States, where the Tsarnaev brothers, ethnic Chechens, used the Boston Marathon as the occasion for their terrorist attack earlier this year.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the potential connection with the Tsarnaev brothers in just a moment. But first, going back to this region specifically so people understand, Volgograd, that is where these two bombings took place. It's about 400 miles from where the Olympics will take place in just 6 weeks. That's along the Black Sea. You mentioned the security that's already in place. Vladimir Putin, the Russian security teams, they say that they've created the security zone about 60 miles wide along the Black Sea area of Sochi. How do we know that terrorists are not already inside of that security zone?
Well, exactly. Look, the Olympics are a spread-out event, and you can have security in a lot of different places. You can protect the venues, let's say the ice skating, where the ice skating events are going to be, where the skiing events are going to be. But there still will be tens of thousands of spectators all over the area. And if you secure one area, if you make the skiing venue safer, it simply means that other targets may end up being softer, more attractive to the terrorists, bus depots, hotels, that kind of thing. So I think there's considerable reason to be risky. We've seen the Olympics used for terrorist attacks in the past, obviously, and the Chechens and the other extremists from the Caucasus region see this as a real opportunity to get their message out worldwide, unfortunately.
Now, this alleged rebel Chechen leader known as the Russian bin Laden, also known by some other things, what do we know about him and his ability to actually lead or orchestrate attacks?
Well, I think that's what these Volgograd attacks are intended to demonstrate. But let's be clear: antipathy between the Chechens, the Dagestanis, other Caucasian ethnic groups in Russia goes back centuries, and they've been attacking in recent years. In 2002, the Nordost theater hostage taking in Moscow, the Beslan school attack in 2004. There's a real history of animosity here, and so that's why when the entire world's attention is focused on Sochi, it's a perfect opportunity for Chechens and other terrorists to use it to attack.
And what about, you mentioned the focus there on Sochi at the time, but what about using that as a benefit to attack other areas, perhaps America and the United States? And go into a little bit more detail about the connection or the possible connection between the Tsarnaev brothers and specifically this Chechen rebel, which the FBI had investigated, that the Tsarnaev brothers, specifically the older one, had gone over there and perhaps had some training from.
Right. Well, the Russians say that they tipped us off to this effect, that they had been trained in Dagestan and that training was reflected in the kind of terrorist attack that was committed at the Boston Marathon on April the 15th. I think the obvious connection between sporting events where you have a lot of people, in this case out on the streets, I think it's something we should show some situational awareness to in this country. Tomorrow we've got the biggest of the college football bowl games. We've got parades out on the streets. I expect that law enforcement and intelligence in this country are focused on the risk that Chechen terrorists might try to one-up the Boston Marathon bombing in this country as a prelude to the Sochi Olympics.
Yeah, college bowl games and the Super Bowl coming up here in New York City very soon. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Bolton. We appreciate your insight as always.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
You too.